Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Project Dragonfly's informational webinar. We know it's a busy time of the year, and so we really appreciate you all taking the time to spend the evening with us. I want to first welcome you. I'm Katie Filan. I'm the director of Project Dragonfly. Been with Dragonfly for about 8 years now. I actually was on the instructional side of the team, and so I have taught most of the courses in the curriculum, and I am also an advisor, and so I wear many hats and have different perspectives to share, and also have taught various Earth expeditions. I want to also allow my co-facilitators tonight to introduce themselves. We will talk about community today. Community is really important in Project Dragonfly, and so many things that we do require a community. So Tara, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Titoba. I am I'm representing our AIP sites. I am here in New York City at the Bronx Zoo as our Wildlife Conservation Society site for AIP. I am an advisor for our students. I also facilitate many of our W Plus elective classes, which we'll be talking about. And my role today is to play a part in being a voice for the AIP interested students and just to share a little bit about what our community looks like. So welcome.
Great. And Spencer, will you mind introducing yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Spencer Pate, and I'm a senior program assistant at Project Dragonfly, where I've worked for about 10 years. My roles include recruitment and promotion, data analysis and evaluation, and I also serve as the program registrar. So I may interact with you in those capacities, either as an applicant or as a student. If you have any questions during the webinar today, you can type your questions into the Q&A feature or into the chat either way. I'll get to as many questions as I can. If you have further follow-up questions after the webinar, please feel free to email us at dragonfly@miamioh.edu, and I'll put our email address and phone number in the chat as well, so everyone has that information.
Yeah, and Spencer will be very busy answering your questions throughout the evening. We'll try to make this interactive, so feel free to ask those questions. And then Spencer, also feel free if there's a question that you want us to answer verbally, we're happy to do that as well.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
sounds good. And one thing I'll add real quick, if you want everyone to see your question in the chat, you can toggle the little drop-down menu next to two to everyone if you feel like it's a question that everyone can benefit from seeing.
great, that's wonderful. And just, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes together. We know that your time is valuable, and as a program that is designed for working professionals, we do try to really maximize that time and stay on time. So just as you're thinking about those questions that you might already have, what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about what Project Dragonfly is and what the different opportunities we have. And so we're going to talk a lot about the difference between the Advanced Inquiry Program, which we oftentimes like to call the AIP, and the Global Field Program, the GFP. You might have also been on our websites and seen the word EE or Earth Expedition. And so what does that mean? A couple of the things of what does this program prepare you for? For those of you that are considering a master's degree, you're oftentimes thinking about the future and what's next and what are the skills and different opportunities that you're going to get in this program. It's always important to think about funding. So we're going to talk briefly about the funding costs and then application tips throughout. And so to begin with, we are a program based on community and a community of learners. We love a diverse set of learners because our community is stronger. We're really working on solving some of these wicked problems in the world, and we need a diverse set of people with skill sets and values. So, and we are also a program that we have students currently in 48 states and 11 countries. So go ahead and introduce yourself either in the chat. And so let us know where you're sitting in the world today. And I'm a classic Midwesterner. I'm actually in Oxford, Ohio today on Miami's campus. And so I like to talk about the weather. So feel free to share what your weather's doing. And if you're interested in either the AIP or GFP, and if you want to add another thing, also who you are in the world, right? What are some of those definitions? And so I introduced my formal role, but I'm also a conservation biologist and an engaged scientist. I work in a lot of these questions of how animals respond to changes, and then how do we use science and inquiry to make positive changes in the world. And as Spencer said, he's going to be monitoring those questions in the chat. And so we're always amazed at how quickly he types and gets those questions answered. So feel free to answer any of those questions. And so great seeing already the diversity of Montana, San Diego, Cleveland, Chicago, California. Wonderful. Welcome all. We're so happy that you came here today. So a little bit about Project Dragonfly. So Project Dragonfly currently is a professional master's program based at Miami University in Ohio. And so we are named after the Miami tribe. So oftentimes that's something of like, why is Miami in Ohio? And we were around before Miami, Florida. So this is like claim to fame. So a very old university. We were established in 1809. It's a beautiful campus. We are very excited that next week our graduates are coming to campus for our winter commencement. Oftentimes, yep, and Tara's going to join, so we're oftentimes so excited to see her in person. We have a small group of people that are here in Oxford, but most of us are all over the place. So we love it when we can come together in place. But it's a beautiful campus, but many of you could finish your whole master's degree without ever being on this campus. We are officially housed in the biology department, but we cross disciplines in so many different ways. We've been in the biology department since 2008. I'll talk a little bit more about those degrees that we give, but these are BAs in biology or MATs. Masters of Arts in Biology or Masters of Arts in Biological Sciences. And currently we offer 2 professional graduate degrees. The foundation of Project Dragonfly was actually based on a children's magazine. And so it was that idea of who gets to create knowledge and who gets to ask questions about the world. And so it was a way to elevate students and children's voices in science. And then it quickly grew from a educator's professional development program to a place of community and connection. And so our 2 graduate programs that we're going to talk about today are really addressing a lot of these skills and content to help solve some of the biggest environmental issues that exist in our world. We like to say that we are promoting social and ecological positive change, and we're accepting people with bachelor's degrees in all fields. And so our key mission is really building this alliance and this network of individuals with firsthand knowledge of inquiry-driven skills. So getting that opportunity to ask questions and create knowledge in the world using that inquiry framework. Based in a community, we are a community of learners. We connect with our communities. We think that community is the basis of solving some of these big problems. And then with the benefit of both the ecological community, but also the human community, because we are part of that, student achievement and global understanding. Our key idea is that to be change makers and really make this framework, we need to go beyond the classroom. And so we go into the communities and get involved with those experiential learning. So you're not just reading about these things in the world, you're going in and solving these problems on your own, well, with the support of a great community, and then also making, getting to hear from all the people working in the field and doing that work yourself. We're based on these foundations of inquiry, voice, and community, really elevating all the different frameworks. And I think one of the things is that both of these programs have an individualized study in them, that you will develop a master plan on the things that are really interesting to you. And so I like to hear what our students oftentimes call this program. So people use it, everything from conservation to sustainability to environmental stewardship to teacher development and framework. So there's really a broad level of both content knowledge and skills and who you are as a person and who you want to be that's connected to the Project Dragonfly framework. And Tara, feel free, as I see you nodding around, if I miss anything or any key points, feel free to jump on in. So Project Dragonfly in this broader framework currently offers 2 professional master's degrees that are 35 credits. We say that we are more than an online program because key to what we do is building those foundations of community and connecting with in-person learning experiences. So one of our programs, the Global Field Program, will have 21 credits that you're connecting with our Earth Expedition courses that have 16 locations around the world. You're connecting with some of the leading experts and learning about what these issues look like in those communities around the world. On the other side, and Tara's going to share a lot about this program, the Advanced Inquiry Program. Again, you're taking the same 14 credits online, and then you're having experiential learning at Azure Botanical Garden. And so we have 10 in our current network and 8 that will be accepting students for the 2025 season. Each program in the Advanced Inquiry Program has a different scope and sequence that's connected to a lot of the topics that matter for both that institution and that location. And so again, 35 credit hours, 14 are online. Both our Earth Expeditions and our Web Plus have an online asynchronous component to it, but then also have those in-person learning experiences. With both of these programs, you can receive Masters of Arts in Biology or a Masters of Arts in Teaching in Biological Sciences, and it can be completed in as little time as 2.5 years and up to 5 years. And so we oftentimes consider this a part-time program. And so again, it's designed for working professionals or people that just have other lives outside of that identity of being a student. So I talked a little bit about the Global Field Program. You'll pair 3 Earth expeditions together. These are oftentimes 7 to 10-day field courses around the world. And each course has a specific focus and again is working with those local partners and experts. I'm a primatologist, and so I oftentimes teach the Brazil course or the Borneo course. I work with both of these organizations and places before I came into the program. So when I found Project Dragonfly, it really felt like I was coming home because all these different parts of me, I used to teach K through 12. I've done informal education, I'm a scientific researcher, and I was like, oh, wait, this connects all the things that I love. But in Brazil, we're working with, show my props, right? Our golden lion tamarins and learning about that successful conservation story. So as you can look through that map and see all the different places that you can visit and all the different themes that we focus on. Each day in the field looks different, but inquiry is the heart of who we are. You're going to have that opportunity to ask questions and develop projects to answer those questions. All of our courses are looking on both the ecological and human aspects of both these issues and also these solutions. And so you're going to connect with those local partners, those local communities, hear their stories. You're going to have time for reflection. You're going to have time for learning from your peers. I think that's one of our biggest strengths is because we have this diverse community. You're going to learn so much from your fellow classmates as well as our amazing instructional staff and community partners. So these are just a couple of pictures from all around the world where our students are participating in everything from doing inquiries while snorkeling to horseback riding to watching the sunset and having that place of peace. Now I'm going to pass on the microphone to Tara to talk a little bit about the Advanced Inquiry Program.
So as Katie mentioned, we have 8 sites, AIP sites that we'll be recruiting this year. And AIP, as we saw a couple slides ago, functions a little bit differently, but we are responsible. Our students do take the 21W plus credits, is what we call them. Those are the experiential credits at one of our zoos or botanical gardens. And Katie, you just said you had a phrase, each day in the field looks different in EEs. And we consider our sites our field sites. And so each day in the field, when you are part of AIP, also looks different. We have the privilege of each utilizing our live collections at our institutions to build in that inquiry piece that Katie was talking about, as well as this similar skill sets of reflection and learning with your peers. And doing really cool things right here at our home site that you will essentially be working with. Each of these sites acts as a place that is sort of like your classroom. You come and work with us. And as Katie mentioned, each of us have different scope and sequences, and all of us recruit from the areas around us. So if you're close enough to one of these sites in the United States, please feel free to dedicate one of our sites as a place to work with for your master's degree program. And so, as I just mentioned, and as you viewed on the map, we are across the nation, and each and every one of us has the opportunity to work very closely with our students. Each AIP site has their own advisor, so you not only have the benefit of the advisor, but you have the benefit of somebody who you will be working with face to face each time you are in classes with us. So these are just a few examples. They're a little small, but they are also posts on social media. So if you go back to our social media sites, you can see the one on the right happens to be some of my students, our students at WCS, Bronx Zoo. Part of our field also includes working with partner institutions. So you're not only at the Bronx Zoo or the Central Park Zoo or the aquarium for our students, but we also take you to partner organizations. And I believe each of our AIP sites do that too. So the blue shirts are ours, but it looks like they might be standing on a bunch of white stuff. Those are all working with Billy and Oyster Project, and they're helping with a lot of their stewardship activities. So we take our students into the more of the field to work and to do great things. So again, a couple of examples of AIP sites, and then I think the next one is also just a few more examples of our students. And I'd highly encourage you, if you're curious about what students are doing and what they're actually day-to-day classes kind of and experiences look like, I would take a look at Project Dragonfly social media. There are some really great stories and individual voices that you can hear about students' experience.
Yeah, and I just want to add, because it's always fun going through these. I didn't pick these, but two of the students that I had in one of our courses, Science Leadership and Media Workshop, that helps you complete your graduation requirements of submitting a publication and then also completing a community learning engagement activity. And so we highlighted two of those. That Ezekiel wrote a piece that was published in Social Work and Mental Health, and looking at a lot of the different ways that zoos can help mental health. And then Mike Curtis did this really big community cleanup program for Framework, and then even connected his family with some of that work that he was doing.
Great. I'm also seeing a couple of the questions come through. So I'm familiar with what the questions you're asking, but let's wrap up some of these slides and then we can get back to them. I'm excited to answer some of them. Again, just some more pictures of experiences that you can have as an AIP student. The top left picture is connecting back to the homeland of Miami University. This year, 9 of my AIP students will be walking in graduation, which is really exciting. And so some students do actually step foot on the Miami campus, even though so many of our students kind of act like their AIP site is their campus for the 2.5 to 5 years. And throughout the program, as you can see, again, each day in the field looks a little bit different. You could be surveying people at a park or at a zoo, having classroom experiences, hands-on with some animals that are ambassador animals at zoos, in the field working with bees in one of these pictures, so on and so forth. But again, really exciting. Yes, most of our W plus classes are in person. We tell our students about 5 to 8 times in a semester. So for at least for our New York site, people travel as far south as, I think we have a DC student, and as far north as a Rhode Island student, and as far west as far Western Pennsylvania. And I know some of the other sites have students that fly in for their days. So it really just depends.
Yeah, I was just talking to a Jacksonville student who lived in Oklahoma. And so a couple of our AIP sites do actually set up those dates in a clump so that people can fly in or drive in and then stay for a couple days and then leave. So that question of what will you get? What will this prepare you for? And so kind of thinking about these broad sort of frameworks of what we're building. We're not just building your brain, but we're really kind of building this broad collection of skill sets. And so content knowledge, we really have a great collection of both curriculum and also instructors to help you learn about some of these world's big issues, everything from biodiversity, climate change, species conservation, evolution, and then some of these global skills of scientific writing, communication. How do we communicate to broader audiences? How do we develop community project management, strategic planning, broader frameworks on that? I mentioned that one of our graduation requirements is to submit something for publication. Again, because voice matters and because there's so many different ways that we can reach those chosen articles, we're not just teaching you how to publish peer-reviewed articles. We have a student, and Tara had a student that just graduated that's a published children's author and uses art as a way of really communicating really important biodiversity stories and also stories on diversity in nature and in humans. And so just a broad range of publications, but then really thinking about how can you use your master's degree to take you where you want to go. And so we've seen a lot of the students obtain promotions, career changes. We have a lot of second career students, and so they've always loved this. And then they're either coming back to their former life or realizing that this is what they want to do for their second stage. One of our San Diego students was a high-level manager of LAX, and now she's a CEO at an aquarium again. And so she had that position because of her management and leadership times, and then had to come to our program because she wanted the content knowledge to work with the content experts that she was managing. And then 59% of our graduates do increase a pay increase or promotion connected to this program. And I think on this program is really what you make of it. And so we're here to support you and the diversity of different students we've had in their careers and their interests. We're here to help you gain the skills and knowledge that you need to be a change maker in your community. How do people fund this program? So as a professional development program, we do market-driven tuition. That means that we don't have TA or GA shifts, but it's at a rate that is a fairly reasonable way. So a lot of students pay as they go, and so they save money and they space courses. I just had a conversation with an advisee that taking this semester off to raise or save a little bit more money, and then we'll come back. There's a lot of different programs for workplace tuition reimbursement, both in zoos and aquariums, and some school districts have them, so that's a wonderful way. We do have students that do put in a FAFSA and obtain federal financial aid. we are a part-time program, and so then there's a way that you can set up so you have at least 5 credits so you can do that. And then there's a couple of different opportunities. And so for those of you that might have been in AmeriCorps or Peace Corps and have those education awards, we can do that. And there's a teach program. And so depending on what school, if you're a K through 12 formal educator in the school district you're in, there's some financial programs. I come from a military family, so GI bills as well. And then scholarships and tuitions. And on that point, so I don't forget, if you apply and complete your application by December 10th, we have a new scholarship this year. And so you'll be eligible. And so this will be a little bit of a lottery that $400 can be applied to your tuition. And so we actually had a scholarship meeting today, and we're trying to get a couple more scholarships in. And that's part of my job. And so raising money that then I can give it back to you to support your education. And we have some other funds connected as well to help you do that. So how much does it cost? The cost will vary depending if you do the Global Field Program or the Advanced Inquiry Program. There's a slightly different per credit tuition rate on it, and then the fees associated with that. And so for Earth expeditions, a lot of your cost is going to come into those 5 credit field courses where you're going to have a program fee. You're going to have your airline ticket to get there, and then your credits associated with it. And so total, you can complete the 35 credits at about $19,900 without airfare and tuition. And then we just have a couple of different frameworks here so that you can see the breakdown of the costs. So the core courses will cost about $6,000. And again, and then you can pace this out up to 5 years as you might want. AIP courses, they're slightly higher per credit rate, but then you don't have those program fees associated with the international travel that's covering your lodging and your framework. Again, so pretty comparable in price, but about $18,550. Yearly cost is closer to that $6,000. And then application tips. So again, apply early. If you really want to go into that lottery for those $400, December 10th, have all your steps completed. All the steps are highlighted on our website, and Spencer is great about answering all those questions. The hardest 2 parts of the application are getting those letters of recommendation and your transcripts from your undergrad institutions or also your previous master's degrees, because we have people in the program who have multiple master's degrees or PhDs as well. Your resume, just making sure it's updated. And I think also thinking about this, people forget that a lot of you have volunteer experiences that are really important. So don't just put your paid experience on there. Some of you are master naturalists, really kind of thinking about all those other experiences that you're bringing in, especially your volunteer experiences. References, oftentimes think of professional rather than personal. But again, this doesn't have to be academic. This could be a community leader, a volunteer coordinator, employer. So really there's a diversity of ideas. And then for our AIP applicants, and I will, when we're in questions, I'll share. One of the best things to do is actually to go to the info sessions or open houses at our AIP sites. And so Tara's going to tell you when her next one is, because I think it's coming up. And then I'll put the link in the chat of all our upcoming ideas for those of you that are interested in AIP, so you can know about those info sessions as well. And then essays, we have a couple of essays. They're pretty short. And so think about what you want to accomplish, really highlight who you are. We really value the person and the person that you're bringing in to this organization. So highlighting those, and then just remembering that this is a professional essay. So proofread and revise it, resubmit it. And we get a lot of questions about GPAs. And so the minimum is a 2.75 if you have one under. We can petition the grads school. And so we have a lot of people that come into our program mid-career, right? They have proven themselves in their professional life. Maybe they made some different choices in undergrads, guess what? We're not going to hold you against your undergrads and what is ever going on. So very big growth mindset. And so thinking about we can help support you in thinking about how you do that if you don't have that 2.75 framework. Get a lot of questions. I might have said it. You do not have to have a background in science. You do not need to have a bachelor's degree. One of the graduation requirements is that you need a biology course, but we have a course that you can take that's connected with that. Okay, so I am exactly at 8:30. We will stay on for this, but I just wanted to pop these up. I have a couple of reflections from our students about what matters to them and the things that they're talking about. This is just one of those amazing communities that I just am so proud that I get to both represent an amazing staff and instructional team, but all the students that give me hope of all the ways that they're constantly doing some awesome things. And just I learned so much from our student body. So take some time and just read a couple of these. It's always great seeing the names, and I'll just leave this one on there. And then we'll stay on to answer any questions. So we want to officially, I'll pop this in, I'll go back to those comments for those of you that want to stay on, but I'll put my information in the chat as well. And so feel free to email me, go on to our websites. As Tara said, their socials have a lot of really great stories. YouTube's also has our Project Dragonfly channel has a lot of great personal stories really sharing what this program is. And so on that, we will answer any questions. And Tara, did I forget any, or Spencer, those really key points that we want to make sure that we share?
I don't think so. And as usual, Spencer was rocking the chat and answered a lot of questions. But if there was something not answered, feel free to just bounce it in the chat again. We can look at it there.
Yeah, I think we hit up just about everything, but again, just please enter any questions into the Q&A or the chat, and I will put my email address and phone number in there again as well.
Yeah, and Spencer answered this, but important time. What are those deadlines? So January 15th for the Global Field Program, February 15th for the Advanced Inquiry Program. Also a reminder for those of you that might not want to commit to an entire master's degree, you can take an Earth Expedition as a standalone course. And so again, January 15th for those Earth Expeditions as standalone courses. If you are a Miami undergrad, send me an email and we will chat. I think a couple of those might be here, so thank you for coming. And then same thing that we have standalone Web Plus courses, so you can take a course at one of our AIP sites as a standalone 3-credit course, or some of our core courses that are online only are also standalone. So up to 7 credits before you matriculate into the program can be applied to it. So it's a great way of, I like to say, try before you buy and see how you feel, or maybe you can't commit right now, but you need some professional development credits, or you just want to have an amazing experience and connect with an amazing group of people and have a wonderful education experience. Oh, that's a great question about letter of recommendation. We do want to have a completed application for those $400 applications. So see what you can do with letters of recommendation. But again, you have till January 15th to apply.
Katie, there's a question about standalone Earth Expedition courses, and they can apply for those also, correct?
Correct, yes. And so again, on our website, we have a separate application, and then you can take those for 5 graduate level classes. And then you can choose any of the 16 courses. So our first year courses are usually bees, Baja, Belize, and Brazil. And so we like to have our first years develop that cohort. And so connecting with the people that will follow them through. However, you can take a standalone Earth expedition course that is any of them. So if you want to apply, you can apply to Paraguay, a place that's very special to my heart, as I lived there for 2.5 years. Costa Rica, we just redesigned that course, and so a wonderful course looking at ecotourism.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight that I believe it was said, but Earth expeditions are also available to AIP students, and depending on your AIP site's scope and sequence, it might determine when we suggest that you go, whether it's your second summer or your third summer in the program. But you can transfer 5 to 7 EE credits to your W plus 21 credit requirement. And we have, I mean, at least from Rock Zoo, we have probably about 40% of our students right now do that and do an Earth expedition in place of the experiential learning courses that take place at the zoo.
Yeah, and that would count in your 21 Web Plus credit hours. Also have opportunities for independent study and internship for our advanced inquiry program. And so we have a lot of students that are really taking, excuse me, some wonderful connections, either at their advanced inquiry program site with community leaders. And I think one of your first courses, your core courses in the program is conservation science and community. And one of the things that is a hard assignment, but also at the end, everyone says it's a wonderful assignment, is that we make you go out and talk to people. And I've had a couple of students that have come back, and someone that they just interviewed for their community engagement lab, that's what we call them, later became their employers. And so just having that conversation of who you are. And I remember one of those students coming up to graduation and saying, Katie, that assignment changed my life. And I was like, oh, okay. So we can't guarantee that, but it's amazing and what that is. I just also, if I didn't say this, our network. So we have 3,000 alums now that are all around both the US and also the world. And so I would imagine for those of you that are in the zoo world, we have someone at probably every AZA facility now. For those of you that are connected to nature centers, both state and federal agencies, nonprofits, corporate. It's amazing to see the diversity of our student body and then what that means as being connected. And so this spring I was at the Zoos and Aquariums Committee on Conservation, so the ZAC conference. And at one point, it's a small conference, there's about 200 people. We said, okay, so if you're connected with Project Dragonfly, raise your hand. And we had someone at every table, and so about 35 people from our global partners that were there. We had our representative from Bhutan and Borneo, to Namibia, Lori Marker, to instructors and facilitators, AIP facilitators, to current students, former students, and alum. And so it's just really wonderful seeing that NAAE, for those of you that are North American Association of Environmental Educators, recently had it. NSTA, National Science and Teacher Association, these big conferences, and all of a sudden there's just these clumps of dragonfly. So it's just really great of connecting with it. Let's see, can you please speak to what kind of employers are excited about this degree and will pay solid salary? The decade in cooperative extension and sustainable agriculture, and wonder who the AIP degree is viewed by academics. Yeah, great question. So I think it really depends on what you make this program is. And so I see a lot of comments on, you need this degree and this is the degree that you really need. And it's really about the experiences. And so we just had a WCS student that had a very strong research project. And so although she was receiving an MA in biology, she's published peer-reviewed publications during her degree. She was doing all sorts of both theoretical research and applied research on sea lions, I believe. Okay. Seals.
Harbor seals.
Harbor seals. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes. I remember seeing the pictures, and then and so that is, I've been on the corporate side, I've been in the nonprofit side, and then I do a lot of hiring now. And for me, it's not what the degree is, it's about the experiences. And so it's how you shape that. If you want to, we do have a couple of students. We actually have about 7 alum that I know of right now that are actually in PhD programs. And so use this program and used it as a stepping stone to then go into the PhD. I know that I have a traditional non-academic framework because I took 4 years off between my undergrad and grad, and it was very interesting that all my jobs afterwards, I needed my PhD for, but it was my experiences that got them. And that's the same sort of thing that we're giving our students, those lines on their CV, that you're not just doing someone else's research, you're really designing those things and developing not just academic skills, but those cross-marketable skills as well. And we do have a couple of people. So one of our community learning leaders, which is kind of like a TA, but not really. They're so much more wonderful than that. She's an egg extensioner out of the Ohio State, and so we have all sorts of people connected with that. And again, sorry, we'll stay on for questions, but we do respect your time, so feel free to log on, log off, and we really thank you for coming and spending your time with us. And Spencer, are there any other questions that either one you want us
I
to
don't think
answer?
so. I'm just
verbally?
trying to work through them in order.
Yeah, great. And I'm just kind of reading through of things that we like to talk about. Ooh, study invasive species. Yeah, great topic. And I think there's definitely opportunities for some really great work in invasive species. Both we study that in some of our core courses, issues in evolution. We definitely talk about invasive species and the evolutionary framework of that. But then all of your projects, you'll develop a master plan. And so it's your goal or vision of what you want to accomplish in this program. And I always say the master plan is much more than the 2.5 to 5 years in the program. It's really kind of your life vision statement and how your own strategic plan in some ways. And so in most of our core course assignments, and the same thing with the fall session inquiry and action, you really get to design what topic you want to cover and what you want to do to build that up. So I actually have a student right now in my inquiry and action course that's actually looking at invasive species and what their aesthetic appeal is. And so are people more likely to pull out, now I'm trying to think of an ugly invasive species, than say, some of our invasive species are actually quite lovely. So there's a yellow flower here in Ohio. And so you're like, oh, that's kind of nice. And you're like, ooh. So looking at that, and so a lot of people use community learning challenges to then do invasive species removals. Campaigns on that. I was just talking to one of my advisees who's graduating that was working on spotted lanternflies and campaigns to eradicate those. So I would say yes, there's definitely a lot of space for that.
We have a graduate student who worked at the New York Botanical Garden, and that was one of her main topics for her time in the program. And towards the end of the program, she really started wondering about the language that is used around invasive species. And her project really turnkeyed into looking at how we speak about plants that are unwanted or undesirable for certain spaces. And it became a really interesting goal of hers to really research that. And now 3 years down the road, she's developing a professional development course and teaming with us, not outside of AIP, as a professional organization to offer courses professionally to teachers in New York City about the language that we're using around it. So anything that you really put your mind to in this really is kind of like your life's journey. It's things that you become more passionate about as you move forward. And it's really interesting to see those changes happen throughout your time with us.
Yeah, and I see a comment here about a RN BSN at Cincy Hospital. So thank you for your service. Send me an email and I will connect you with one of our alums who is still an active nurse and it's now is working on films. She's a big primate person, particularly great apes. And so she's working on both preparing education curriculum for great apes and then building some films for it. And so she still is actively in the nursing career, but also I think that care for the people and the care for the planet oftentimes are really connected. And so the question about what type of careers do people have after this program? Great question. Really a hard answer to I was like, maybe I'll have Tara answer that question because it is extremely diverse. And so just a little bragging of a proud academic mama moment that one of my first graduate students who actually set up a nonprofit who then turned around and put me on her board is now on the IUCN task force for nature-based education. And just going like, I'm just so proud. And she's also one of our facilitators at the Detroit Zoo. And so we keep her in the network and then connect with all of that. So we have a percentage, I would say 30%. So stay in their same career, but then obtain, and this is when Spencer will call me out on my stats, which our alumni report is connected on our website, and so you can actually read the real stats. 55% of stats are made up in person at the time. But a large percentage of our students that stay in their same career do receive promotions or pay raises. We have a lot of students and alums that start their own nonprofits because they realize that there isn't a set job that is really getting at these interdisciplinary programs. And so they've set up LLCs or nonprofits based on really addressing these issues. We have people that go into the zoo field, go into the conservation field. We are increasing our number of alums that are conservation directors at zoos and botanical gardens. We have K through 12 professionals. We have a lot of K through 12 professionals that then take that step up and become the curricular specialists for their departments and their school districts. I just heard from a former student who's doing that now. Outreach, social media consultants, grant writers for nonprofits, federal jobs. We're working on that.
Environmental lawyers that you didn't mention. We do have a couple who went on to veterinary school and now are in zoos and aquariums. And I think what other unique, we have a lot of unique ones.
Sustainability directors at corporate. We have a couple of people that are working at the big bingos, so TNC, WWF,
Manga Bay.
mhm, writers, artists, filmmakers. I forgot about our filmmaker.
Yeah.
Podcasters.
A number of people in development for large organizations or philanthropy organizations. Philanthropic, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah.
As
So
well as people who do what we do, Katie.
yeah. And then some become professors as well. And some become research scientists as well. So I don't wish that question was easier to answer. So we help you become who you want to be.
Oh, when we forgot artists and writers and theater professionals
Yeah.
and singers and dancers. So we forgot the arts. People are going into the arts doing amazing things.
Yeah.
I'm going to an eco cabaret in January, which is amazing.
Yeah, so thinking about how we communicate science and how do we do this. There is an aerialist, a trapeze aerialist who did a conservation fundraiser and themed show as well. And then we had a really interesting group of AZAC, Association of Zoo
Keepers.
Yep,
Mhm.
that we're doing rock climbing connection. Yeah. Interesting. Do you see an increase in applicants by year or do they remain fairly the same? Great question. And so we did see a little bit of a decrease during COVID, just because people were busy. And so, but other than that, we have stayed pretty stable. And so our numbers are looking good this year, that I think we're going to have a strong cohort coming back in. So really excited to welcome everyone in. Great. Well, wonderful. As I'm going through and I see Spencer is frantically has answered most of these questions as I have 75 new messages. And great. So feel free if you have a last question, but I'm going to pop up this last slide again. Just please reach out, Dragonfly at miamioh.edu with any questions you might have. I'll go ahead and you can find my contact information also on the website. And again, I'm going to share our AIP info sessions that are coming up. We have a lot this week. Again, February 15th for AIP, January 15th for GFP and EE only, so Earth Expeditions only. And we hope to see many of you this summer. Courses usually start summer, so we're a summer start. We didn't say that, but that's usually when we started. So Foundations of Inquiry is our first AIP course in that first summer, and then Earth Expeditions. And so we just really appreciate you all spending the time with us and considering us. And we hope to see you in a workshop online. Oh, thank you for that question about application fees. So by attending this webinar, your application fee is waived. And so if you have already completed your application, we will try to cross-reference it. But if you don't see that, please reach out. If not, you should be receiving a code via email that then you can put that in your application. So there is a $50 application fee, but you attended this webinar, then that is waived. So thank you for that reminder. We appreciate that. Community of learning going on right there. Great. We appreciate you all coming.
I just spend an hour this evening, so thank you.
Yes, and if you're in the greater area, we will next Friday graduation is happening at Oxford, and it's wonderful to see it. And then we'll be at the Cincinnati Zoo on Saturday, December 14th. So stop by the zoo and say hi if you want to, if you're in the area.
Or if you happen to be in the New York City area on Saturday and want to come to the Bronx Zoo, we're hosting our in-person info session that day. And you can spend the whole day at the zoo and even stay a little bit later for holiday lights.
Arthur's going to have to answer that question, but I believe the EE only does not have the application fee. Ooh, Rebecca, yes, if you can send us an email, that would be great, and we'll figure out what that looks like. Ooh, what time at the Bronx Zoo?
We're starting at 10:30, gates open at 10, and we're going till about 12:30. But feel free, I'm going to drop my email here and email me, and I will get you resources to be there if you would like.
Oh, and then, and I'll put the list of all our info sessions again, put them in the chat. CGS are, oh, there you go. And then, so we have Cleveland, was yesterday, but they have another one January 22nd. And so, they're doing virtual sessions. And then Cincinnati will have one next week on December 11th at 7 p.m. And so lots of great options. And we do have the flexibility. So GFP, you can live wherever, no problem. We have had people that have moved and have decided that they needed to switch institutions as AIP sites, and that is definitely something that is allowed. And then also there are occasionally opportunities to take courses across AIP sites as well. So sometimes that's a really nice way of just wherever your life is taking you and how we can connect. And so
I don't know how much you want to advertise this either, but we've had an increase in GFP students wanting to take W+ classes at AIP sites. So it's just part of the community.
I'm working on that policy. I'm working on formalizing that.
But it's great. It's really fun.
Yeah. No, people ask me that. They call me and say, which program would you do? And I can't answer that because they're both so wonderful. They have different strengths, and I want to do them both. And so that's why I'm on this side, so that I can support both of them and connect with both sides of the organization. So and connect with all the students, but AIP has a really nice cohort, and you're really connected with those people throughout. GFP, you may or may not stay with that same cohort, so it's a little bit more diverse. But then our Earth Expedition courses are just a wonderful experience as well. Okay, great. Well, again, email us with any questions. We really thank you for your time tonight. But I am going to log this out because we are a little bit long, and thank you so much for all the time and questions. And thank you both, Spencer, for frantically typing, and we could see the steam coming off your fingers. So very much appreciate all your fast responses. And then Tara, thank you also for sharing all your experiences and the AIP perspective with us.
And Spencer, have a good night.
Good night.
See you next week.
Thank you for joining us.